And when they were puppies, anytime they put a toe over the property line, he would smack the paper on his hand and make a loud noise and scare them. And I'll tell you, it worked. They never went down to the highway. Strangers with Kittens. Gen X stories from the least parented generation. Hi, I'm Eileen Kelly. Welcome to Strangers with Kittens. I'm really glad you're here. We're at the top of the Ferris wheel, about to go down into a really bad heat wave. So I'm kind of dreading that and very grateful for my air conditioning and thinking about heat waves back when we were kids. And I don't know about you, but I didn't have air conditioning. It wasn't as hot back then though either, I don't think. But we were also like skinny and kids and didn't know the difference. So that'd be interesting. I want to go back and look at temperatures from like averages from like, I don't know, 1980 and now. I have 2 dogs, but Bear is my sole dog. I've had quite a few dogs since I was a kid, and Bear is really, he's the Snoopy to my Charlie Brown. He's not really a dog. Here's a picture of him. And here's a picture of us for May the 4th. The photo and the scale of us is accurate. That's a picture of us in my front seat of my car. But the outfits were put there by AI. I apologize for the bottle of water that we probably used to make that. And I don't ever use AI except for that. Anyway, he's kind of not really a dog. He's 150 pounds and he's just the greatest. And dropping him off was really scary. He doesn't like to be away from me, and he really can't tolerate being in a crate. So, with a kid, it's not easy bringing your kid for a medical procedure, but with a kid, you can explain what's happening, whereas he has no idea what's going on. And that terror and that confusion in his eyes was just killing me this morning. And he's got to stay overnight. I get him tomorrow. So it was making me think about pets, dogs especially, but pets, and how things have changed so much for the better since we were kids. I always felt very close to my dogs and would sneak them into my bed and break the rules, my parents' rule of not having them sleep in bed with us, and was very protective of them and walked them on a leash. But that wasn't really the norm in my neighborhood anyway. There were definitely dogs that roamed where they went when they weren't in the house. And also we lived like right on Route 17, which is a major highway in New Jersey. And we didn't have a fenced in yard. We had a small yard, and I was terrified and said, let's get a fence. And my dad was like, absolutely not, because it would cost money. And he just trained them to stay in the yard, smacking a newspaper against his hand. And when they were puppies, anytime they put a toe over the property line, he would smack the paper on his hand and make a loud noise and scare them. And I'll tell you, it worked. They never went down to the highway. They did start to roam a bit, and especially if there were fireworks or thunderstorms, my one dog would take off because she was terrified, but thank God she never seemed to take off to the left, which was the highway. She always went to the right. But can you imagine now? I'd call the cops on somebody who lived like that. I would walk home from babysitting and get bitten by a dog just on the way home. I remember these 2 dogs eating out of somebody's garbage when I was walking home from babysitting, and I crossed the street because they were eyeing me like, don't move in on our garbage. And I was like, I'm definitely not interested in your garbage. And so I crossed the street so that they would know I wasn't a threat, and they ran across the street and bit me anyway. Roaming cats were all over the place. They were out and in, and sometimes they disappear. And it's like, did they find a new family? Did they get hit by a car? Nobody knows. And we just live like that. And I know that does occasionally happen with cats now, but most cats, it seems to me, are indoor cats now. And people, spay them. And just our attitude, like people used to have dogs chained up in their yard. And that always bothered me. And I would always say something, but I was the weirdo who thought that that wasn't okay. Also, Doberman Pinschers and German Shepherds were big back then. Also, Irish Setters, but Irish Setters always seemed to be friendly. But Doberman Pinschers and German Shepherds, especially German Shepherds, were really popular in the 70s and 80s. And they were ferocious. Like, they were not socialized. There was a German Shepherd that lived across the street from us, and my dogs and that dog would fight. Sometimes it was this terrible dog fight in the middle of the street, and all the kids would go out and try to break it up with like a broom and a hose or whatever. I always talk about how kids were feral, but animals were pretty feral. And then kids had to deal with feral animals. Like you would just be you walking everywhere by yourself, walking home from a babysitting job or walking home from school or walking home from dance class or whatever it was. And there were dogs roaming the streets or cats. I mean, cats usually left you alone, except for my friend Stacy's cat that was terrifying and would attack you from the bushes. Yeah, in addition to stranger danger and and bullies and all the perils of growing up Gen X and not having adults supervise you or pick you up, there were also animals just roaming around. And you tried to cross the street and stay out of their way, but sometimes they bit you anyway. It was a different time. I cannot imagine letting my dogs do that now. We have a fenced in yard and walk them on a leash, and that's that. And also, I mean, I used to clean up after my dogs, but people didn't. Most people didn't. There weren't dog poop bags that you could buy in bulk in a box. You would just use a plastic grocery bag when those started being used, which when we were kids, it was just paper. But yeah, it's changed so much. And so now, I mean, the idea of having a knee replacement surgery on your dog in 1980, I mean, I don't even think the procedure existed, but people would be like, you are out of your mind. Um, and the car. Our parents didn't seatbelt us, let alone our pets. My dogs have a whole hammock situation in the backseat of my car, and it's partially to protect my car, but most really, I mean, it's to protect them. And it's comfy, and it's got like a three-part solid floor that's then covered with softer material and mesh in the front so that the air conditioning and heat can pass through, but it comes up so they can't go flying through the space between the two front seats. I also have harnesses for them, but they do enjoy putting their faces out the window. And that's sort of the last bastion of, of, of Gen X that I keep alive is letting the dogs put their faces out the window. But our dogs used to be flying around the car with us, right? Hole in the backseat floor of the car. Our dog did fall partially through it, and my brother and I saved her. We were on our way to Harriman State Park, and my dad stopped short, and we had two dogs, Clancy and Murphy, and Murphy was trying to get a grip on the vinyl seats with her claws and couldn't, and was disappearing down the hole. And you could see the pavement through the hole in our Ford Country Squire station wagon. And we grabbed her by the scruff and the collar and pulled her back up. And that's how we rolled. No hammocks, no dog harnesses. I remember the puppies that my parents had gotten us when I was in second grade. We took them there was like a convent in the next town over, and they had all this land, and it was called the Villa, and we would sleigh ride there in the winter. So we brought the dogs to run in the villa, and one of the puppies, all of a sudden she comes back and her paw's gushing blood. And I freaked out because I was 7, and this puppy that I loved so much was clearly seriously injured. And there's no going to the vet back then. I mean, when I tell you it was DIY everything, I'm not kidding. So I was begging my dad to take us to the vet, and he refused. And we went home I think I might have like taken my t-shirt off and wrapped her paw in it. It was very dramatic. Tried to remember what I saw on the show Emergency and put it into action. And I wrapped up her paw and we got home and cleaned it out and then bandaged her paw. And then I had this Native American cloth girl doll with long black braids. She was embroidered and soft and everything it was handmade. And there were these little cloth felt booties that she was wearing that had this cool beaded embroidery to make them look like moccasins. And that's what she wore. She had her foot in a little replica of a Native American moccasin, and that was how we took care of our dog. So going from trying to be the best vet that I could be at 7 and putting my dog's foot in a doll shoe, and now taking my dog for knee replacement surgery. Like, Gen X, we've come a long way. We really have. I'm proud of us. We're doing it better. Out of your mind. And I'm so happy that we've evolved. I wish it went further, but I'm so happy that we've, as a society, come to understand how important animals are, how important our pets are, how much value they add to our lives, how worthwhile it is to take care of them and not keep them chained in the backyard. It's really, thank goodness. So I'm trying to keep my mind off of my dog. I don't know if he's in surgery right now. I mean, they said they'd call when he came out, but I don't know if he's having surgery at the moment or if he's just waiting. But it's really nerve-wracking and hard to part with them when you can't make them understand what's going on. It just feels really unfair and kind of cruel, even though you know that it's for the best. So half of my studio audience is not here, and the other half is rendered lost without her better half. And so she's silent, not making a peep. Normally she's kind of brazen and, patrolling, looking for someone to bark at. And she's just quiet and freaked out right now because her big brother is not here and she doesn't know what to do. Taking my dogs to the vet, the surgery that my dog bear is having is major, and he's having screws, like metal plates. It's called a tibial plateau leveling osteotomy. He's having metal hinge put on the side of his knee to stabilize his knee. Takes the place of the ligaments that are shredded. It's metal screws in his femur, in his tibia, right? Fibula? Tibia, I think it is, your shin bone. I don't know if that's what it's called with dogs, but I think so. Yeah, it must. Tibial plateau. Yeah, it's tibia. But anyway, it's major and it's a 3 to 6 month recovery. And I got him these surgical recovery pajamas, which was no small task, trying to find pajamas big enough for him. And I finally did find them. They're these. Chewy.com carries them. Thank goodness for Chewy.com, because they are the only ones that have things big enough for my big dog. So yeah, it goes up to a size 15, which we got the 15, and it just fits him. So it'll cover his leg, cover his whole body really, but cover his leg, and they're copper infused, which is supposed to help healing. I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever, I'll try it. But it also inhibits bacterial growth in the cotton because there's like copper threaded throughout. When it's covered and it's a wound that's stitched, it can get infected. So these copper infused pajamas are supposed to help with that. And and the Gen X in me, like, I'm like, oh my God, thank God I was able to find size 15 copper infused pajamas, right? Like, that's what my soul says. But then the, kid from the 70s and 80s, whose father wouldn't take a puppy for stitches, is like, okay, you're getting copper infused pajamas from a dog. But what are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? You got to get the copper-infused pajamas because we love them, right? They're ready to go. Get him home tomorrow. Get him in his copper-infused pajamas and hope for the best. And if you need gigantic or small or medium copper-infused pajamas, the link is going to be on our social media post, so you can find them. But I'll bet if you go to Chewy and search copper-infused post-surgical pajamas, you will find them. And they're orange, just to remind you that they're copper-infused. They're kind of a 70s rust color, as a matter of fact, sort of like what's behind me. So they're really like on point for Gen Xers. We've evolved quite a bit. I'm so glad that there are animal hospitals, like actual hospitals with real operating rooms and emergency rooms and 24-hour service. And because we've had that capability for decades, right? We've had it for humans. Why not provide it for other living beings? So while I'm very anxious about Bear and I'll be worried until I have him back with me tomorrow, I'm so happy that we're in an age where he can be taken care of and this is more the norm and other people get it and other people treat their animals like members of the family because they are. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week. Bye. If you like the show, please rate, review, and share on social media. Strangers with Kittens contains nothing artificial. It's certified humor. Produced by Ashley Aker, music by Chris Hagian, and recorded in front of a live audience of dogs.